Welcome to today's insane episode. From the stunning woman on a bike to high-octane pursuits in Brazil, where suspects have no idea what kind of danger they're in, and so much more. Get ready, because this is about to be one wild ride, when motorcycle chases explode into pure adrenaline. This group of bikers was enjoying their ride, performing stunts, tricks, and more, until a motorcycle officer appeared behind them and initiated a traffic stop.
They're after him.
This female motorcyclist was riding peacefully, enjoying her ride, when out of nowhere, two thieves on a motorcycle appeared behind her. They began following her, trying to stop her and steal her bike, but she hit the gas and took off.
Oh my god! Holy shit! I just got chased. Shit, my heart is in my mouth! Oh my god! I've never been chased. They were literally doing that to me and everything. Oh my god.
She reached speeds of over 80 miles per hour through city streets, using the agility and power of her sport bike to outmaneuver the two thieves. Let us know what you think about this intense moment.
Joga no chão! Joga!
While patrolling in Brazil, an officer spotted a motorcyclist speeding. When the officer attempted to initiate a traffic stop, the suspect refused to comply and took off, ignoring all signals to stop. The officer briefly lost sight of the motorcyclist, but remained persistent in the pursuit and didn't give up. Moments later, the officer spotted the suspect fleeing on foot.
Ei, pega aí, ladrão, pega aí! Ei, vai, dá o negócio, joga no chão, joga no chão, filho da puta! Joga no chão, devolve. Não tô roubando não, tio.
The officer caught up with the suspect, placed him in handcuffs, and later booked him into jail. In Australia, a motorcycle pursuit unfolds from the biker's perspective. It all began when the rider was caught speeding. Two motorcyclists were fleeing from a patrol vehicle and managed to successfully evade the officer. They used the agility of their bikes to slip through tight spaces and make their getaway. While patrolling the area, an officer spotted a motorcyclist speeding. He attempted to handle the situation with a routine traffic stop, but the rider chose to flee instead. The pursuit turned intense, reaching dangerous speeds of 100 miles per hour. At times, the officer was just milliseconds away from losing sight of the motorcyclist, but he stayed laser-focused throughout. There were two people on one motorcycle. When they crashed, one of them fled on foot but was soon caught and arrested, while the other was arrested immediately at the scene. Once again in Brazil, an officer spotted a motorcycle with two riders and attempted to initiate a traffic stop. However, they revved the engine and took off, fleeing from the officer. The pursuit was intense, with high speeds and reckless sharp turns. The officer had to quickly think on his feet, strategizing how to bring the suspects to a stop. The pursuit ended when the officer executed a successful pit maneuver, causing the motorcycle to crash. The suspects were quickly placed in handcuffs and later booked into jail. Once again, a police pursuit unfolded from the suspect's point of view. After being caught speeding, the officer ordered him to pull over, but instead, he decided to flee. The suspect was evading at high speeds, doing everything he could to outrun the officer.
Ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy. Boy, ain't no way, boy.
Realizing he couldn't evade the officer any longer, the suspect stopped and attempted to flee on foot through the woods. However, the officer quickly caught up with him and made the arrest.
Stop, stop, lie on the ground, lie on the ground, lie on the ground, on the ground.
While patrolling, the officer noticed a motorcyclist speeding without any protective gear. The officer attempted a routine stop, but the rider decided to flee. The pursuit escalated with both the suspect and officer driving at high speeds, navigating sharp turns. The suspect forced the officer to think quickly, trying to figure out how to bring the chase to an end.
Follow the direction down. And Golf 3542. Daniel Saragu is in the middle, it's us.
The suspect was driving recklessly through the streets of Brazil, showing no intention of stopping and making things more difficult for both himself and the officer. If he had just stopped, he would have only received a ticket, but now, his actions will land him in jail.
Stop, 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 stop. Stop, 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 stop. Stop, 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 stop.
The pursuit ended when the suspect realized he couldn't evade the officer any longer. He stopped and surrendered. The officer placed him in handcuffs, booked him into jail, and brought the pursuit to a close. Pursuits in Brazil are always on another level, and this one was no exception. The officer spotted a motorcyclist speeding and attempted a routine stop, but the suspect chose to flee instead. The pursuit was intense, reaching dangerous speeds of approximately 100 miles per hour, putting everyone on the road at risk. The suspect was evading recklessly, showing no consideration for stopping and making things easier for both himself and the officer. If he had just stopped, he would have only received a ticket, but by fleeing, he's now heading to jail.
Positivo, já tô na Guilherme Charfe.
The pursuit ended when the suspect stopped, then fled on foot, but he was quickly apprehended. During a search of him and his bag, officers found a large amount of cocaine. While on patrol in Brazil, officers noticed a car parked with a broken window. Moments later, two suspicious men walked by, and the officer stopped them to see if they knew anything about the vehicle.
A Gabi Shopping frente ao cartório.
Viatura da 5 dá pra apoiar a abordagem.
Mano, para. Deita no chão. Deita.
Vai tirar.
Deita, cai.
Estica as pernas, filhote.
Oi?
Estica as pernas.
Nem conheço.
Estica as pernas.
Nem conheço ele, ó.
Vira de costas. Vira de costas. Vira de costas. Já foi preso? Já foi preso? Nunca foi preso? Nunca foi preso?
Fica na moral, viu? Filhote,
Fica.
vamos lá. Eu vou trocar ideia contigo agora. Ó.
Módulo. Linda, mano.
Nossa, que é isso, cara?
Vira de costa aí, mano. Vira de costa aí. Tá junto ou não tá, maluco, contigo?
The officers suspected that the two men were responsible for the broken window, which is why they arrested them immediately and placed them in handcuffs. On February 21st, 2021, officer observed two motorcycles stop behind his patrol vehicle during a traffic stop. The riders informed him that they were being followed by a gray SUV. As they described the vehicle, it pulled in front of the patrol car and began reversing toward the officer.
Griffin. 1702 George, Edward, Kentucky. 1702 George, Edward. Hey! Just pulled off from me, 10-12. Southbound 218 right lane. Be advised, you might be 1096, so give me another unit.
Officer instructed the driver, later identified as Tanya Dominic Higgins, to pull over. However, she ignored the command and began fleeing, following the motorcycles. The officer activated his siren and updated dispatch while pursuing her.
Stop here, 215 south. Drove on the shoulder.
The driver continued to evade the officer, making erratic lane changes. At mile marker 213, she stopped and exited the vehicle. The officer commanded her to lie on the ground, which she complied with, but then tried to flee back to her vehicle. She was apprehended and placed into handcuffs.